are 9 a.m. Vancouver time, and I'm excited for this Wellness Wednesday chat with a beautiful friend first, student after. So everyone, welcome. This is Claire Snyman. Say it.
Snyman.
Snyman.
It's all good.
Snyman. Afrikaans,
yeah.
Okay, so I met Claire 10 years ago when I was teaching Pilates out of my ballet school. And I have a very beautiful, vivid memory of that day that I met Claire. She walked in. This was about a class of 20 people at the time, so there's a lot of energy and people chatting. Claire walks in, very gentle, soft-spoken, elegant. It's something that stood out for me, very assertive. And as a teacher, you notice these things right away. So Claire sets herself up on her mat and we begin class. Class is progressing and there's variations going on and so forth. And my new lovely student is in child's pose. And radar goes off as Pilates teacher, what's happening on the mat? So I walk over to Claire and I just put my hand on her back and I said, "Are you okay?" And she just looked up at me and she said in her beautiful accent, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. This is how I roll." And I knew right there and then that this woman was long-term for me. I loved the assertiveness. I loved the mindfulness. But I also knew, I just had that feeling there was something deeper going on. So here we are 10 years later. My beautiful friend is still my student. But beyond that, Claire has a story to share with all of us. She's lived in different countries and through a life experience, not textbook, living through something very serious, has shared her passion as a profession. TEDx Speaker, wrote her own book. Thank you for my copy. And I don't want to talk too much. I think that Claire has such a valuable lesson and story of resilience for all of us. So, Claire, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad we can sit here on this beautiful day together and chat. This is perfect.
Don't you love her accent? So, let's begin. Claire, tell us your journey of your life around the world in different countries.
Okay, so
over the past 20 years.
Yes, so as you can tell, not from British Columbia, Canada. So, and maybe some of you tuning in today might be from some of the places I have been lucky enough to live in. So, I'm South African by birth. I was born in Johannesburg, lived there until I was about 23, and then moved with my husband to Australia, to Sydney, Australia, and we lived there for about 4 years, which was amazing. Loved Sydney, loved Australia, and then we moved to Canada, and we've been here for almost 19 years now, which seems crazy. But through that whole sort of experience, and I'm glad we've been able to move different cities, different countries, because every time it teaches you something about culture, weather. That was a big one. Weather.
You learned about us quickly.
Yes, I totally did. Rain is a very different thing when you come to BC, but I just love it actually. I've got used to it. But for me, it changed my perspective, or really grounded my perspective in a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I suppose also the other thing was I navigated different healthcare systems, different food, cultures, sports, lots of different things. So I'm grateful I had that opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know what the next adventure will be, but for the
Stay
moment,
here.
we're here.
You're not going anywhere. Okay, so Claire lived in all these different countries, and we're here today to talk about your journey as a patient and how moving across the world really shaped how you interact with the healthcare systems. I want to elaborate and share about that.
So I think it's been an interesting one for me because I started off in South Africa. I would say I was a pretty routine patient. You know, I used to see,
like the rest of us,
my GP every so often for this and that, and nothing too dramatic. I did fracture my hip, I must be honest, which was quite unusual at the age of 22. I fell off my bike completely randomly, so that was a big one. But that was my first foray into like the healthcare system, I would say. And then we moved to Australia, and still pretty routine. I did have endometriosis, so I did have some treatments for that. I had IVF as well because I couldn't fall pregnant naturally, and miracle I did, so which was amazing through that process, and arrived here in Canada 5 months pregnant with our son, and you know, continued really luckily to have our son here in Canada. And it was about when he was 4 years old that things really changed. I was diagnosed in the emergency room after the sudden sort of onset of vertigo. So when the room really spins around you, you're like on a merry-go-round, but without all the fun. And onset of migraines. I was diagnosed with a non-malignant brain tumor. And
on the onset of migraines.
Yeah. So I'd never had migraines before, but with the vertigo and with the migraines, my GP, who was amazing. In fact, I think I'm probably one of the only people in probably BC who has the same GP that I had when I landed in Canada, which was 19 years ago. It was pretty amazing. But for me, my son was 4, and that was my diagnosis, and that was pretty scary.
Devastating.
I remember coming back from the emergency room that night, and I was told, you know, you have a brain tumor. I saw the neurosurgeon, who said to me, we're going to do watch and wait, which means we're just going to monitor you with, you know, medical imaging and MRI every year. And if your symptoms get worse, we need to see you immediately in case your tumor's growing and we need to do something. But, you know, that's it. And you'll see a neurologist for your migraines and your vertigo. But, you know, that's it. Cheers, we'll see you. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's it. That's it. But I've got something inside my brain that's not supposed to be there. And that was a lot to take on. Yeah.
Wow. And so did you feel, at that point, I would feel on my own?
Yes.
You felt alone?
Yes. I did. And I remember coming home that night, and the first thing I did was go into my son's bedroom, and he was 4. Oh. And you know, when they sleep and they're a little bit sweaty at night, and his little curls on the back of his head were curly from the sweat, and he was just lying there and his little cheeks were all sort of like bunched up. And I remember I just burst into tears, and I was just without doubt crying, because I didn't know what this actually meant. And the funny thing was, that night, what did I do? I went online.
Yeah, as we all would.
This was 13 years ago.
Yeah. And
Facebook was the theme of the month or year then. And I actually did find a Facebook brain tumor support group with the exact brain tumor I had.
Wow.
And that was a lifeline for me, because being able to talk to people who have the same condition you have was amazing. That community of people that understand what you feel.
Claire was just saying before we started that her circle of people still to this day are those that dealt with the same story, and cancer.
And also, yes, a lot of the cancer community, because brain tumors are often malignant and non-malignant, and also I know a lot of people outside of just brain tumors. It's just the general cancer community, and that community is very strong and very resilient.
And they understand. Each of you understand what you're going through.
Yes.
We'll get into a little bit more of that after, because we see recovery.
Yes.
And that's all we see.
Yes.
And so, but there's so much more going on.
Yes, behind the
Yeah.
what we see, and actually what's going on behind the person's facade or mask. I used to call it my mask when I was recovering.
Mm-hmm. You would put a mask on to go out into the world. Okay, so Claire, what do you want people to know about the importance of their health information?
So, when I was diagnosed that night in the emergency room, and then I started this process of seeing these multiple specialists and sort of having multiple appointments, and I now have multiple medications. I realized very quickly, I was like, well, where's this information? What was that imaging, and what was that report, and what did they say in it?
You need to understand it.
Exactly, and I was like, well, where is it?
Yeah.
I was like, well, no one could tell me where it was.
Isn't that interesting?
And so I asked my GP, did they send you a copy of that? Can I have a copy of it? And she said, sure, let me print it out for you. And I have a famous, I now do a lot of advocacy around this. I have a famous red binder, we call it. Although this red binder is now this big, and I actually have a picture of me with my binders, which is this big now, because I have multiple other chronic conditions. But it was that first thing I realized how important it was for me to track everything around my healthcare, my any imaging I had done, any lab tests I had done, any specialists I saw. What did they say about me? What report did they send back to my GP? And I needed to actually be like the holder of that information, because sometimes I even went to another specialist and they actually didn't have the information about me.
So ask for your documents, ask for,
absolutely,
and keep it on file.
These days, where are we now? 2025. So time has passed since I was diagnosed. Things have changed somewhat. It depends where you live around the world, which province or territory you live in. Canada.
Right.
We've got these little things. So we have somewhat improved electronic access to our health information, but it's still not what you would think. If you're not a patient, or you don't have a loved one who is a patient, it's not like your banking details where you can just log in and see all your transactions. Exactly. It's not like that. So don't take it for granted that you are going to be able to see all your health information.
Unless you ask for it.
Actively, and I think the biggest thing is, don't assume that no news is good news. So if you go for a test, or if you go for a scan, or if you go for a mammogram, and you don't hear about it, follow up on it.
Oh, yeah.
Because just because you don't hear anything doesn't mean that there's nothing. It could have got lost. There's a lot of cases where things just get lost.
So no news is not always good news?
No, you need to follow up and find out what's going on. It's really important.
With all of this experience, Claire, and living through this, probably still, right? It's always every day is a new day. What have you incorporated into your life in this wellness world that has helped you, maybe that you weren't doing before?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of that?
Absolutely. So I think for me, it was 2 years after my diagnosis, my brain tumor doubled in size. And so it was a interesting, strange situation. So I suppose we can earmark it. My son's now 6. He's just finished kindergarten, I think it would have been, yes. My migraines get worse, my vertigo gets worse. But through this very convoluted process, I go to my neurologist who says I have an ear infection. I go back to my GP who's like, this is not good enough. We need to send you to the emergency room. You need a CT scan. Long story short, no one's listening to me other than my GP. And behind the scenes in my brain tumor is causing my brain to swell. And I have a condition called hydrocephalus, which means this fluid in my brain is blocked. So my brain is swelling.
Right.
And I actually need emergency brain surgery. So I actually had medical error because no one picked this up other than my GP who's trying to get this done.
I wonder with her.
Yeah.
For 20 years.
Yeah.
almost.
Eventually, I had brain surgery, which I needed. But as a result, I have a brain injury because I also had meningitis after my surgery. But what this taught me about self-care, it taught me about advocacy, about a lot of different things was because it took me 18 months to recover after my surgery.
Right.
Was a few things. One was the importance of mental health.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I had PTSD until about 9 months after my surgery. And when I saw a clinical counselor, actually, on advice from a friend who said to me, how have you been managing with all of this? You know, you see all of these specialists all the time for follow-up and, you know, but I know you're always hitting these brick walls. You know, you try to do things and then it's too much and then you're in bed for 3 days.
Mm.
I was sleeping sometimes 18 hours a day. And she was like, how are you coping with this sort of mentally? How are things going?
And being a mom.
And being a mom who couldn't function as a mom.
Yeah. And a wife.
And a wife and everything else and a friend and she said to me, have you considered seeing someone about that?
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't. And I thought, wow, that's a good observation. And so I saw someone who, when I saw her, she said, tell me about how you're feeling. And I told her everything and I said, the one thing is whenever I lie down, I have like this film reel that goes on in my mind about everything that happened in the 2 days prior to my surgery.
Oh.
It lies down and I think about everything that happens and it plays through my mind.
Right back at you.
And everything up. And she said, you have PTSD.
Mm.
And one of the things she said to me about how to do and to take my brain out of this fight and flight mode that it was stuck in and make it feel safe was to meditate. And she said, you have to bring your brain back to safety.
Yeah.
And so I started to meditate.
Amazing.
And every time I lay down, I did it obviously in between, but every time I lay down, I did meditation before I slept. Every time I woke up, I told my brain the first thing I said was, you are safe. Because it didn't feel safe anymore. And that was, I did a lot of work. I looked at John Kabat-Zinn.
Yes.
And looked at his work. And that, I think for me, was essential in bringing my brain back to a sense of
Present.
exactly living in the present, moving out of the past.
Right.
I also
And meditation is a daily practice for you still now? Or
not as
weekly?
much as it should
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
100% should be going back into that.
Yeah.
But I think for me, one big thing was just general mindfulness.
Yeah.
I became more aware of, I always said colors were brighter for me after my surgery. I'm very aware of the small things now. My son will say, are you having a grateful moment, Mom?
Ah, I love that.
Because I will look around and the sunsets are more vivid for me. The flowers, I'll notice the small things much more than I used to. I went back and did individual Pilates when I was able to with an instructor because I knew my body needed it, but I had to do it at a pace that was this big.
Claire pace.
A Claire pace, as you said, the
Claire
child's
pace.
pose pace.
You will forever be the child's pose image first. But with that, and that still sticks with me as Claire is my friend, just being mindfully assertive as a person, even teaching Claire today in our semi-private sessions, it still is the same. Like, she'll laugh if I'm demonstrating something, and say, you look fantastic doing that, I'm gonna do my thing over here. And we have such a mutual respect. Yes. You know, we're teachers, we're Pilates teachers, we all have our thing, but you're a person, right?
Yes.
And you know what's right for you.
Yep.
In every new given day.
Yes.
So I really admire that about you, Claire.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being the teacher who can see that too, right? That knows that some days, as I said, the vertigo might be high again, or the fatigue is high, and I can just work around it.
And we're not, in our setting as well, we're not there to push and win something big.
Yeah.
It's the mini wins each new day.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
So I think that kind of shares Claire's story in a beautiful encompassment. Claire, explain this book that you wrote.
Yeah, sure. So this is one of my books. This is 2 Steps Forward, Embracing Life with a Brain Tumor. That was...
Where can this be found?
It's not available on Amazon.
Okay.
You can also find it on my website, which is twosteps.ca. That book became my journal, actually. It came out of my journal. After my surgery,
I'll share it.
I had a lot of emotions, as you can imagine. I'd had medical error. I was highly fatigued. I think I had some depression as well. My husband was amazingly supportive. I had my family, my friends, but I had a lot of stuff I needed to put somewhere, and I didn't know where to put it.
It's journaled. It's actually written as like February, 29th, and what Claire was feeling that day.
Yeah.
And she did explain that the system at the time was not helping her deal with how she was feeling. And so this was sort of an organic creation in the moment, which is brilliant. And I think helpful because you also said that when you were going through this, it was an outlet for you.
Yes.
To release how you were feeling.
100%. The journaling.
Journaling.
Yes, journaling was the other thing that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
That's what I did, and eventually it became my book, which my counsellor actually said, how I've been coping with your challenges, and I said, I've been writing. And she said, why don't you think about turning that into a book one day? And I was like, that makes so much sense, because I actually looked for a book.
Yeah.
When I was diagnosed, and I couldn't really find one. This was a while ago, and its book is almost 10 years old. Oh, I think it might be its 10-year anniversary.
There you go.
September, I should celebrate
Cheers
that.
to
Cheers to
that.
And people still buy it because it's evergreen.
Beautiful.
It's evergreen.
Okay.
And yes.
Well, I'm going to start reading it tonight on the pile of other ones that I have. And thank you, Claire. And what is that?
Oh, this one here. I did my message about the importance of, as I said earlier, tracking your education, your information, educating yourself about your condition, asking questions, and then actually managing your healthcare.
Right.
I was like, I'd love to take this to a bigger stage. How do I do this? And so I did. I applied to do a TEDx talk, and I did one here in Vancouver actually in 2018, and it's now actually on the TED platform because it got enough views. And
so we can find it on?
It's on the TED platform.
Nice.
And so I wrote a book to accompany it, which is called Activate, How to Save Your Life in a Complex Healthcare System. And I talk about that a lot because the more activated people are in their healthcare, the better outcomes you have.
Right.
The better it is for not only the healthcare system, but for yourself. There's so many benefits about being more activated in your healthcare. And for me, it saved my life. Because if we hadn't actually pushed, here in Canada, we have the option of having private imaging. Because I had medical error the way that I went, if I hadn't pushed with my GP and got a private MRI, I would have gone home, and then I probably would have fallen asleep, and that's what it would have happened. So if you have to sometimes take the reins, you have to be the manager of your health care with your healthcare team, and your family and friends. And
Support system.
You have to have it with your support system, and that might look different for different people, right?
Right.
And so that's what the book talks about. So yeah,
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks
you,
for being
Claire.
with us today.
Again, this is just another way of sharing, inspiring people who have something to give, and something for each of us to take and resonate. And these are people I choose to surround myself with for very good reasons. Next week I have a friend who happens to be in town. I met her in high school, and she's visiting, and it was perfect timing. She's also a public speaker. I choose mostly to share women who are willing and have already presented themselves on a stage, comfortable to share their stories. And so she's in the finance world, and not by choice, by life experience, living through something. And she's also a very special, inspiring woman. And so
I'm going to tune in for that.
can't wait. Thank you for joining us. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Take
Or
care.
evening, whatever time of day it is. Bye.
Goodbye.